We often see people on their way to burnout, and Nicky's had her own experience of burnout. And I think one of the common themes that we see is that people just leave it too late to take preventative action, which is really heartbreaking because we know how horrible it can be once you hit burnout and the impact it has not only on yourself, but on those around you and your business as well. So, Chris, you have a background in health and you've now worked with businesses for a number of years. Can you tell us what are the signals that people need to be looking out for so that they can actually do something about it before it's too late?
Yeah, thanks, Ness. Yeah, I've worked in the healthcare industry for about 20 years as an intensive care nurse, and then about 10 years in business in workplace wellbeing. So I am all about preventative healthcare, being proactive, and ultimately changing the whole trajectory of your health journey, keeping people out of hospital. There's so many things that we can do to keep ourselves healthy and well and, limit our chances of burnout or of any type of illness or disease. And it's about really, the number one thing that we're often missing because we're so busy in business is just listening to our own bodies. We have this innate ability of biofeedback. Our bodies will be telling us, will be giving us signals that there is an issue, that we're starting to break down or that we're becoming unwell. And some of those little niggles are really important to attend to before your body starts screaming at you and you get to that later stage of burnout. Things like just, feeling tired, starting to feel exhausted, pulling away from people, losing your professional or self-efficacy towards your workplace, not having the same desire or fire in your belly for the things that once lit you up. They're all little signs that can be leading you towards burnout. And the more you listen and the quicker you interact and take action, that would help really to reduce those chances of leading to the point of burnout, which I've been there. I've been at the point of burnout. I didn't listen to my body, and I teach this stuff. So that was a real wake-up call for me. I was just so busy in the doing that I didn't listen to my own body and my own needs, and it got to the point where I became burnout myself, and I needed to take a really good, significant break from my work in order to get myself healthy and well. So the sooner we listen and take action, the easier it is to come out of that slump and get things back on track.
I think that's also part of the challenge, isn't it? Because to listen, and what I'm hearing in all of those really good tips in terms of signs of burnout is that we need to stop, we need to pause to be able to hear, to listen, not just listen, but hear what our body's telling us, and also to be able to see and identify those patterns. It's in that reflection we can realize, actually, I don't have that same fire in my belly. Actually, I'm not as inspired by the work that I do. And in fact, it has been like that for a little while. And I also think, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this and if you agree or kind of build on it, but that listening to ourselves, it almost takes practice, because we can stop for a second, we can do a micro moment, we can kind of keep pushing through. We're in that busy trap, we're in that place of, if I drop one ball, everything's going to topple over. And so this self-trust we need to develop, it's kind of like meditation. If you just do one meditation, 10, 15 minutes meditation, and you haven't done it for ages or you've never done it, your mind is going to be crazy busy. Like, don't set yourself up for unrealistic expectations. And I've been getting back into meditating in the last couple of weeks. I'm like, it's so frustrating because I was really peace and calm and fairly quiet, never 100% quiet. And now I'm not. But now a couple of weeks into it, I'm like, oh, there's the flow. And then it's kind of easy to stop again because I found the flow and everything's okay. So I guess there's a couple of things in that. How do we learn to listen to ourselves and to trust that what our body is telling us, because it is the blueprint, but just doing it once is not necessarily going to give us what we need? Actually, that's probably the main question in this.
And I love that word that you use, a busy trap, because it is a trap that we get sort of caught into and stuck within. And then we are not focused on our bodies, on our well-being, on our health. And that's where potentially we could decline and deteriorate. So it is about, and this is what I share with my clients, and I do predominantly myself. When I'm planning for business, I implement planning for my personal health and well-being. That goes in my strategic plan for my business. And I didn't used to do that until I got to the point of burnout myself. But now I incorporate that, and it's as important, if not more important, than the marketing, than the sales, than all the things. Because if we're not healthy and well, if we're not putting time aside for our own health and well-being, we're not going to be any good to our business. We're not going to make those sales. We're not going to be able to do that marketing. We're not going to be able to deliver our products or services to our clients. So it is the number one priority. And that, that analogy that we all hear continuously, you've got to place that oxygen mask on yourself before anybody else, is really important, because we need to focus on our own health and well-being in order to be our best selves, to support our clientele, and then beyond that in our personal life, our family and social lives also. So getting out of that busy trap, being mindful, and figuring out what works for you, because meditation is not going to work for everyone. Mindfulness is not going to work. So it's just really figuring out, what do you associate yourself with? What do you really enjoy doing? What just gives you a little break from being in the busy trap and being in a space where you can just concentrate on yourself, whether it's going for a walk or whether it's catching up with friends in a social realm. It's just doing what you want to do that gives you that time and that break, and then taking that reflection of, checking in with yourself. How am I doing? How have I been behaving? How have I been reacting in the workplace? I notice that I've been a bit more reactive, or I notice that, so it's having that reflection and then digging deeper. Well, why is that? Why am I being reactive in the workplace? Or why am I snapping at my kids? Is it that I'm tired? So it's almost coaching yourself and asking yourself those open-ended questions to dig another layer and another layer to get to the ultimate triggers. Because the thing on the surface is the consequence of what's happening underneath. So the deeper you dig and the more questions you ask, you can get to the source of, well, I notice that I'm not getting a good night's sleep. I notice that I'm spending hours on my phone at night and I'm not getting the quality hours of sleep, and I'm waking up tired, and therefore that's triggering me into being reactive and angry or grumpy. So it's just about understanding yourself and coaching yourself and getting to the heart of the problem, because with the awareness and with the understanding of what's going on, it's then that we can put into place actions or change our habits into something that's more purposeful and something that's going to be more healthy and helpful for the sustainability of our well-being ongoing. So asking ourselves the questions is a really good place to start.
I love that you're talking about, your business plan has this, personal part of it, the health and well-being, or whatever it is you call it. And Nicky and I think that was one of the first models we came up with in our business, was the idea of your true north sits in the center of business growth, managing your finances and your money, and prioritizing your life. And we teach that to our clients because, we don't go into business just to not have a life. That's not the purpose of it, right? It's about, it should be enriching our lives, and our business vision needs to be connected to our individual personal vision. So there's a lot of crossover in what you're saying that aligns strongly with what we talk about when we're helping people understand how to thrive without burning out. I'm just curious, though, to come back on what you started talking about, Chris, with your own personal journey and experience around burnout. And if you're open to sharing, I'd love to know, how did you navigate through that? Because I know sometimes when we hold a role within business, so Nicky and I as, business or performance coaches, and And then when we're not kind of stepping up to the mark, there's always that thing in your head going, God, why don't I get this? It's just like, oh, I'm this person, I'm the coach and I should know this. I should, right? We start beating ourselves up. So just from the perspective of a health coach and having gone through that experience, maybe you had a little bit more awareness on how to get out of that perhaps a bit more quickly. Would you be open to sharing what actions you took and how you found your path out?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to share, because I think we can all learn from experience. And we know burnout essentially is that accumulative stress. It's that ongoing stress for a long period of time where you get into that chronic stress state. And when you look at the sort of the bell curve, when you're underwhelmed or haven't got enough stimulation or stress, you're bored. You're in a space of boredom and procrastination. And as you move through the bell curve and have more pressure and more stress, it's a good stress. It's a healthy stress, because it's then you're performing optimally, you're excited, you're taking action. But going beyond that, where you're getting to a chronic stress state and ongoing cumulative stress, your performance starts to decline. And then we get into that point of overwhelm and burnout and health issues. There's 80% of serious health issues like heart disease, chronic diseases are associated with stress, and the release of all the stress hormones, adrenaline, noradrenaline, cortisol, can have a significant impact on our physiological well-being and lead us into some serious diseases. So when we're in that state for a long period of time, it's very problematic, and burnout is almost like the body's way of saying, I am opting out because I have to, for my own survival. I need to just take a break. So when I got to the point of burnout, I wasn't recognizing it at the time, but looking back again in reflection and in hindsight, and noticing now that, there was so many stresses. It was around the year 2020 when COVID had hit. We'd gone through the bushfires in Gippsland. I had 5 deaths in my immediate family. It was just one stress after the other, trying to homeschool kids, trying to run a business online, doing all the things as a single mother. And I'm a strong, stoic woman, I tell myself constantly. So I didn't reach out for support. I can do this on my own. I'm okay. But the stress got the better of me. It was too much accumulative stress that got me to the point of burnout. And the realization when I was actually in burnout was, I need to just step away for my own health and well-being, or I'm going to have some serious health problems. So I was in a financial free position where I was able just to take off for 4 months, pop the kids in the caravan and cruise up the coast and take a really good holiday. I spent 4 months walking on the beach, playing tennis, playing games with the kids, getting off digital devices, being one with nature. So I went from that extreme end of the bell curve and brought myself back to, after 4 months, I'm like, getting a little bit bored now. I feel like I need to do something. So it was just recalibrating, rebalancing, getting my body back into a homeostatic balance, getting rid of all the stress and the toxins that I'd built up into a healthier place where I'm ready to re-engage and re-interact with my business and with the world. So that was, I believe, an extreme, but that's what burnout is. When you get to that point, you just need to shut down and shut up shop for a while in order to maintain and manage your health and well-being.
Oh, I really thank you for sharing that, Chris, because I think that your story and a lot of what you talk about will resonate with a lot of people. And I think, when you said that you were in the position to be able to step out of the business, to take that 4 months, to go on this trip, and that helped you re-nourish, refuel, and be able to come back to a healthy state. And I think a message I really want to get out there to people is that the burnout wall is real. Because when you're sharing that story, and I'm reflecting on my experience as well, there's that point of no return where you physically can't get up. I mean, again, you didn't share this verbatim, Chris, but for my experience, it was physically could not get up. And I think that the metaphor of a burnout wall, it's hitting a wall and you cannot get through it. And the message I want to drive is that don't let it get to that state. you know, if you can't afford 4 months out of the business, even if you can afford 4 months out of the business, it is so damn hard to come back from that. And everybody has their own unique circumstances. You've got family, you don't have family, you've got a lot of responsibility in corporate, you've got your business. People are relying on you. Part of burnout, I think, is that you feel like there are so many people relying on you. And so I just feel like it's so hard to get through to people, though. And I know myself, if someone said this to me back then, and I don't know about for you, Chris, and those of you who are listening, so how do we get this message through that, you know, to not let it get that far to the point that you've got to take 4 months off because you can't go any further? How do we get through to our listeners? How do we create this change? How do we, because I think in the moment, it feels easier to just keep going as is. It's not easy, but it's easier than, like I said before, the fear of stopping, everything will fall over, or what will happen, or there might be some martyrdom in it, or there's a whole bunch of reasons that we don't stop. How do we create this change? What do we want to say to our listeners who are resonating with this?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it, Nicky? I think, you know, the approach I take working in workplaces, building wellbeing strategic plans, is about cost savings. It's about looking after your staff. It's about the sustainability of self and of business. So this is for large organisations, or if you're a sole trader. You know, while I was looking at the statistics, it's around 25% of the workforce suffer burnout. That's a quarter. That's a significant amount. And almost 50% are experiencing what's considered extreme stress. And we know it's extreme cumulative stress that leads to burnout. So if your workforce are becoming stressed, or you as a sole trader are becoming stressed, and you're getting to the point of burning out where you're needing to opt out or stop the business, or you cannot function moving forward, basically there's going to be a lot of loss of not only health and well-being, but profits within your business, right? It's not sustainable. When people burn out, they often opt out of an organisation, or they opt out of a business. That costs approximately between 30 to 150% of the wage of that employee. So the average cost in Australia is between $60,000 and $70,000. So if you've got more than one employee burning out, opting out, if you've got 25% of your workforce burning out and opting out, that's going to be a significant cost factor to the business, and that's not sustainable. And the cost factor involved, when you look at, you know, the intellectual property that's walking out the door, got to do the logistics of the recruitment and the advertising, the promoting, and then the retraining. And then there's, you know, people get a little bit disheartened, and it loses that sort of team dynamics when people are dropping off and opting out of an organisation. So they're not going to be performing as optimally. So you look at all the logistics and the cost involved, it's very significant. When I talk to a business owner in this manner, that we need to be proactive, preemptive, look after the health and well-being of your employees, support them with education, resources and actions and activities, because these are the consequences if we don't. Can you afford not to take any action? And then utilising that sort of framing helps people to realise that if I don't take action, it's going to have a significant impact on the well-being of my employees, but ultimately the well-being of my business. So implementing a wellness program within an organisation, or if you're a sole trader, just simply looking after your health as priority number one on your action to-do list, is a cost saving. The normal return on investment of a wellness program is 6-fold. I've got as much as 10-fold with organisations. So it is an investment in your people, and it's an investment in the business, and it's an investment in the sustainability of the business, so you can have a healthy business ongoing for the long term.
What I love about that is sometimes the reason why people don't stop and consider themselves is that whole, it's a bit of martyrdom, you know, like the business has got to, I'm the one, I'm what is it? We call it, you know, you're on juggle street because you're everything to everyone, right? You're constantly there. Everyone's relying on you. And you put yourself last because you think you need to put others first. But this is a great reframe, because if that is your mindset and it's a too big a leap to help yourself out, we know that the people that we talk to who run businesses, they're in there because they want to serve and they want to do a great job and they're passionate about what they do. And it really is about giving. So when we put that perspective on it, how can we continue in business? How can we have a thriving business? How can we get the best performance out of our team and ourselves if there's this huge elephant in the room that none of us are willing to take a look at until it's too late? So in your circumstance, you had, you know, the luxury of having the finances to do that 4-month break. And obviously you manage that with your client base in order to be able to still come back to having clients. But I wonder, you know, from a financial point of view, if you're resonating with this and you realize that maybe this is a time in your life that you need to stop and take a check on where you're at and be honest with yourself and real. If you don't have that buffer to do 4 months, 6 months, however long it takes, because everyone will be different. And Chris, you really lent into that. You really knew what to do. So I know for you, Nicky, you said that at least a couple of months of nothing and not being able to work. So it's a bigger picture than just little old me. I can push through. I'm okay, you know. And I resonate so much, Chris, with what you said about being stoic and strong and, you know, like us women, we can do everything. Well, we can, but at what cost? So that really is a great way of reframing, I think, to be able to get people to look at it from a financial and business perspective, because we're business people, right? We've got to do what makes sense. So those stats are really, really powerful. I don't even know that I have a question. I just want to get on a high horse.
I love that, because I think that's a really important point. Those statistics are so powerful. And in my mind, I'm thinking, if you're not creating the change, that on a deeper level, you know that this is not how we're meant to be living. This is not, you know, on a deep level, this is not how you are meant to be living. I want to repeat that. You know, it's not natural to feel so exhausted all the time. And if you are not creating change based on everything we've talked about and for my health and well-being and all of that, then this is a business strategy. It's just as important as a business growth strategy. Or, you know, we've been talking sales and marketing strategies. This is a cost saving, people. You heard it here. Proven statistics and not just stats from external sources, but Chris herself, this is the results that you've gotten 10 times, you know, in your own, what you have helped create. And I think that that's incredibly powerful. And there's so many reframes there to look at. And I think sometimes we have to leverage the pain. You know, you shared a stat earlier, 80% of, was it chronic illness or?
Yes.
It's from stress. Oh my gosh, like I think of that and I'm like, this is avoidable. But we've all been there. We you know, to some extent, we still fall into this trap.
Yeah, like, you know, when I look at, you know, and that's the whole reason I moved from intensive care nursing into health coaching, to move from that one end of the spectrum, looking after chronically sick people, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, you know, working in cardiothoracic intensive care where they were getting bypass surgery and very invasive procedures. And simply after doing that 20 years and continuously reading the notes, you could see that how that trajectory happened. Poor sedentary lifestyle, you know, they're not active, they're smokers or they're drinkers or they're overwhelmed, they're stressed. Poor nutrition, all the things that are accumulating to the demise of their health and well-being, that's ultimately leading them into a situation of massive invasive procedure where it's not only impacting that individual, it's impacting their families. And the amount of times I saw families holding their hands of loved ones in such distress, It's impacting their workplace because they're taking the time off work to have these invasive procedures. It's impacting the community and ultimately the economy. The average day of stay in intensive care is $4,000 a day. It's a significant cost to the healthcare system. So there's so many things that we can be doing. You've gotten me on a tangent now. This is something I'm very passionate about. That if we just take the action, onus and responsibility for our own health and well-being and support those around us, we can ultimately keep people out of hospital. We can change that whole trajectory of their health journey so that they're continuing to thrive within themselves, within their workplaces, supporting their families, supporting the community, and ultimately contributing to their economy. And it's really about, I became very frustrated with a system that, in my opinion, was somewhat broken. It has a lot of validity in so many realms, but there are so many more things that we could be doing in the education space of preventative healthcare, in supporting people with the right tools and resources and strategies to take control over their own health and well-being so that they don't end up in such a serious predicament.
Oh, I really want to take a moment to thank you for the work that you're doing, because it is so damn important. Yep. And it is really incredible to be able to hear your perspective, not only your personal story, thank you again for sharing that, and your experience, again, the two ends of the spectrum, where you've moved to the preventative, and it is such important work that you do. So thank you for sharing all of this wisdom, knowledge, not just with us, but, everybody that I know that you impact in your life. It's really meaningful, and I'm feeling all the feels, around this, because it's important work. So we could keep talking forever. I'm gonna put a little bow around this, because I think there's so much really powerful, impactful insights you shared around, of course, why it's important to stop and reflect and listen to our bodies, listen to, not quiet the mind, but listen to our body. I love this, explore and play around with what that looks like for you, the self-care. If meditation isn't for you, what does that look? Get curious about that. And I think don't assume that something won't work. Have a go and see if it does. You've got to stop the doing and step into that place of being. And again, I really want to press, it's not natural to feel that tired, people. So look into it, start listening to your body. And if not for you, for your business, for the people around you, for the children, whatever is going to leverage that pain to help create some change. So we're going to close out with the final question in a moment. But before we do that, if people, which I know that they will be, wanting more of your knowledge and wisdom, where can they find you? Where can they come and friendly stalk you?
I like being friendly stalked. Thanks, Nicky. Simply at my website, www.wellnessworks, spelled WORX.com.au, and I will provide a free resource to the listeners. It's just a wellness wellbeing calendar that you can utilize in your solo business or in your organization, that gives you some tips, tools and strategies on some wellness initiatives that you can implement to support your staff or support yourself.
I love that.
We'll do that, Nicky. Yeah.
Yes, I do want to just, I would definitely be downloading that myself, because a point I want to also press is, as Chris said, just because even if we've had burnout before or been on the path, even if we're in this industry, even if we're doing this work, it's a continual evolution. It's never a tick and flick, oh, that happened, it'll never happen again. So for everybody that's listening, wherever you are on the phase of wellness and looking after ourselves. And Ness, I totally cut you off, so over to you.
No, I was just going to say, we're going to totally download it and use it in our business. So I guess we wrap up with what Nicky was saying. Our final question, Chris, what's one action our listeners can take in the next 24 hours that helps them to move from this state of potential burnout or even at burnout, a preventative action, just something they can do that's tangible and happens?
My recommendation will be take a step back in order to take a step forward. And that's just taking a moment, taking a step back from the business and the doing and all the activities to just being with yourself. Just take a day out of business. It's okay. The business won't fall apart. It will fall apart if you get to burnout. Take a day, go for a walk, meditate, whatever it is that works for you. Do some of that reflection. Ask yourself some really poignant, open-ended questions. How am I doing? How am I traveling? How am I behaving? Answer those questions honestly. No one's listening. You're talking to yourself. And once you become more aware of what's going on, then you'll know what to do.
I love that so much. And if you have resistance about taking a day out of work, then you need to take a day out of work.
Good feedback.
Thank you so much, Chris. Really, really value and appreciate you. And thanks everyone for listening today. We'll catch you next week. Bye
See you later.
Thanks, girls.